He once performed a version of Stairway to Heaven that featured a full choir and orchestra, yet behind that breathtaking artistry, there was a man whose genius was often matched by his grudges. In the dim, smoky corners of rock history stands Jimmy Page, the mystical mastermind behind Led Zeppelin's monumental sound. More than just a revolutionary guitarist who transformed blues into the thunder of heavy metal, Page was known for his perfectionism and for harboring some very real resentment towards certain fellow guitarists. Page once admitted that his fascination went far beyond playing the guitar. He was just as intrigued by how music was recorded and produced, and he learned every detail he could. But behind that curiosity was also a fiercely competitive spirit, one that often turned into disdain for players he believed didn't meet his towering standards. Welcome to Rock Rivalries Uncovered, where today we dive deep into the darker side of Jimmy Page and the 6 guitarists who, according to insiders, managed to provoke his legendary contempt. The London-born architect of classics like Whole Lotta Love and Black Dog was known for demanding precision and emotion in equal measure, yet his high standards often clashed with others who shared the spotlight. There are guitarists who play, and there are guitarists who understand, Page reportedly said in 1975. Most fall into the first category. To Page, many famous names didn't just fail to meet his expectations, they offended his very sense of what music should be. From tense studio encounters to whispered put-downs in recording circles, his rivalries revealed deeper questions about authenticity, technique, and the soul of rock. Some feuds were public, others stayed behind studio doors, but all shaped the mythology of rock guitar as we know it. So, let's count down the 6 guitarists who, by all accounts, made Jimmy Page's blood boil. 6. Ritchie Blackmore. At number 6 comes Ritchie Blackmore, the flamboyant guitarist behind Deep Purple and Rainbow. Despite their shared roles in shaping hard rock, Page reportedly couldn't stand him. Their rivalry began in the early 1970 seconds, when both men were hailed as pioneers of heavy music. Rock journalist Jeff Barton once claimed that Page told studio musicians, "Blackmore thinks every song needs a bloody sword fight. He confuses volume with passion." For Page, the problem wasn't just Blackmore's playing, it was his theatrical approach. While Page built mystical soundscapes and complex arrangements, Blackmore favored dramatic, almost medieval performances that Page supposedly dismissed as Renaissance fair nonsense. There are guitarists who serve the song, and guitarists who make the song serve them. Page reportedly said to a German magazine that same year a thinly veiled jab at Blackmore's showmanship. The tension even played out in real life. During a London recording session in 1974, witnesses claimed Page walked out as soon as Blackmore arrived, muttering, "I don't have time for costume parties." Ironically, Blackmore later praised Page and Led Zeppelin, seemingly unaware of the disdain. To Page, however, Blackmore represented everything wrong with modern rock style over substance, flash over feeling. 5. Eddie Van Halen. Number 5 brings us to a clash between generations. Eddie Van Halen, the Dutch-American prodigy who changed rock guitar forever. After Van Halen's explosive debut album in 1978, Page reportedly dismissed his technique as mere parlor tricks. Guitar World editor Brad Talinsky claimed Page told friends, "Real guitar playing comes from the heart, not from showing off like a circus performer." That remark, of course, quickly reached Eddie. Though Van Halen often credited Page as an inspiration, the admiration was clearly not mutual. What enraged Page wasn't just Eddie's new finger-tapping style, but what it symbolized a shift from soul and groove to sheer technical spectacle. Page saw it as athletic guitar playing, brilliant but empty. "There's a difference between playing guitar and playing with a guitar," Page said in 1979, another not-so-subtle reference to Van Halen. Things reportedly came to a head in Los Angeles in 1980, when Page abruptly ended a conversation after someone mentioned Eruption, Eddie's iconic solo. "I've heard enough bedroom noodling for one lifetime," he allegedly snapped. Eddie, always gracious, continued to praise Page publicly, but behind the scenes, Page had already written off what he saw as the circus era of rock guitar. 4. Yngwie Malmsteen. Crashing in at number 4 is Yngwie Malmsteen, the Swedish guitar virtuoso, known for blending metal with classical music and for having an ego as grand as his talent. When Malmsteen burst onto the scene in the mid-1980 seconds claiming to be the greatest guitarist alive, Page was reportedly livid. This Swedish peacock thinks Bach wrote power chords. he allegedly told friends. He's confused technique with music itself. What truly angered Page wasn't just Yngwie's speed or technical brilliance, it was his total disregard for blues, the foundation of rock. To Page, Malmsteen's elaborate compositions were classical music gone wrong, an exercise in showing off rather than feeling. Some people think more notes means more music, Page said in 1987. They're usually the same people who think louder means better. The feud reached a breaking point at a 1988 Guitar Expo, where Page reportedly walked out midway through Malmsteen's set, telling security, "I don't need to watch someone practice scales for 20 minutes." Malmsteen later fired back, calling Page's work primitive blues noodling. For Page, that insult may have stung more than any high-speed solo. 3. Keith Richards. At number 3 comes a rivalry straight from the heart of British rock, Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones. Their tension dated back to the 1960 seconds when Led Zeppelin and the Stones were battling for rock supremacy. According to journalist Robert Greenfield, Page once said, "Keith thinks 5 chords make him Chuck Berry. The man wouldn't recognize a melody if it bit him." Their feud wasn't just personal, it was philosophical. Page believed in complexity, layers, and sonic alchemy. Richards believed in raw simplicity. "Anyone can bash out satisfaction," Page reportedly told NME. Real musicianship takes more than the same riff for 50 years. The hostility peaked in 1975 at Madison Square Garden when, according to witnesses, Richards refused to shake Page's hand, muttering, "I don't shake hands with thieves," a jab at Zeppelin's alleged use of old blues riffs. Richards later called Page's work overproduced wankery. In return, Page dismissed Richards's stripped-down style as 3-chord primitivism. Their rivalry symbolized the eternal battle between technical artistry and pure rock grit. 2. Jimi Hendrix. Coming in at number 2 is perhaps the most surprising rivalry of all: Jimi Hendrix. When Hendrix exploded onto London's music scene in 1967, he instantly overshadowed nearly every guitarist in Britain, including Page. According to historian Charles Shaar Murray, Page bitterly complained to friends, "This American comes over here, and suddenly everyone forgets who was playing guitar before he arrived. It's all flash and feedback. Where's the musicianship?" While Hendrix was celebrated for his fearless experimentation, Page saw chaos where others saw innovation. "Some people think breaking guitars makes you a genius," he allegedly said. "Real musicians don't need pyrotechnics." Insiders claimed Page grew paranoid that Hendrix was trying to eclipse him, telling bandmates, "He wants everyone to forget there were guitarists before him." Even after Hendrix's death in 1970, Page reportedly refused to praise him, privately dismissing his legacy as overrated theater. The rivalry may have been one-sided, but it haunted Page for years, a wound to his pride that never quite healed. 1. Eric Clapton. And finally, at number 1, the rivalry that defined an era, Eric Clapton. In 1960 seconds, London, the two guitarists were locked in a battle for blues supremacy. According to journalist Chris Welch, Page once scoffed, "Eric plays the same 3 blues licks, and everyone calls him a god. I guess mediocrity sells better than innovation." When Clapton recruited drummer Jim Gordon, who had been working with Page, the insult turned personal. "Eric builds his career on other people's talent because he doesn't have enough of his own," Page allegedly fumed. By the 1970 seconds, both men were legends, yet Page remained obsessed with proving he was the superior artist. "The difference between Eric and me," he reportedly said at a party, "is that I create music. He just copies it louder." Clapton later praised old blues musicians while subtly downplaying Led Zeppelin's heavier sound. Page shot back by calling him a museum curator who's never had an original idea in his life. Their feud wasn't just about guitar styles, it was about pride, legacy, and the very definition of artistry. And there you have it, the 6 guitarists who reportedly stirred the wrath of Jimmy Page. Each rivalry tells a story of genius colliding with ego, passion meeting pride, and the eternal question that still divides rock. Is true greatness about precision, emotion, or the magic that happens when both collide? Which feud shocks you the most?